to Lovebug Tarot, and if you're coming in, welcome in. So, hello again to all of my fellow tarot goblins. So, we are looking at the week ahead. We're going to be using our divination grid, so I'll explain that as we kind of shuffle along. But yeah, we'll just kind of jump into it. As always, there are timestamps below in the description. And so if you want to jump ahead to when I lay out the grid or when I start the read, feel free to do so. Ooh, we're feeling this one. We're going to start with an affirmation from our very sassy deck. I'm going to put that right over there. For now, let's see. Fun little spots to put stuff. We're going to shuffle this. We typically use the tarot if I have any like specific questions or if I need to clarify something. Ooh, okay. Well, you know what? We're going to leave this one out too. It's the Six of Swords. That's interesting. Okay. Wasn't looking for clarification on anything. That one just came out. What was I trying to say? Yes. Okay. So, sorry, I have music playing and it's a little distracting, which is odd because usually it helps me focus. So that's very interesting. The thing I was going to say and then lost my train of thought and then it came back. Good Lord. Should I start over? Nah. You know what? We're just going to roll with it. We're going to put these over here. I think what I was trying to say is, if you're new here and you're not familiar with the way I read, I use a variety of different tools. One of which is an affirmation deck, and I use the tarot to clarify things. I have Celtic and Nordic runes we'll be using as well. And I use a Russian divination deck. And the reason why the camera's back so far is because it's actually laid out in a huge grid. You use all of the cards in the deck. So, yeah. I think that's what I was trying to say. It was something... I don't know. It's chilly today, so I don't know if that's just... some reason when it's cold. I don't know. It makes me sleepy. When it's like cold and I'm kind of bundled up, it's sweater time for me. Or if it's rainy. And if it's rainy and cold, I'm just like automatic nap. Automatic nap. For some reason, I just sleep. Okay. Oh, what I was saying. Might be a little late for this. But I sometimes do get things come through as I'm laying out the grid. So, yeah. But I put all those down in case people just want to skip ahead. I try to make sure to, if something comes up again, like, backtrack and be like, this came up when I was laying out the grid. But just in case you're just hanging out listening to me babble, you know what, if you know, you know. If you know, you know. All right, so what's going on with the week ahead? November seems to be shaping up to be an interesting time, and I've filmed these like in advance. So, which makes it even more interesting, certainly for me. And I don't know. I've gotten some feedback from some people, and all good things. It's just really interesting to see how messages resonate to different people, how they come through. Because, yeah, I don't know. All right. So, we start laying out. If you haven't seen these cards before, they're 4 pictures, half pictures on each, make sure this is in the corner, on each card, and as we lay them out, we're going to look for matching pictures. So each picture has a general meaning, and depending on how they end up, their orientation, the meaning can shift a little bit. It's kind of like an extra layer on it. Make sure this first row is pretty straight, because then the other rows should line up pretty well. I like to match as I go. Don't necessarily see anything in the first row. Everybody reads a little differently. Some people lay everything out and match at the end. And there's no right or wrong way. It's just whichever way works for you. I like to use other tools when I'm doing this, and I always take a minute at the end. I cut it out. Or I sit here and stare deeply and be like, did I miss anything? Ah, bread. Ooh, okay. Come here. Come here. My goodness. Are you really? You really gonna do this? All right, fine. Does not want to come up. Sometimes they be like that. All right, so. All right. Ooh, Rytho. That one's been popping up for a while. Rytho is the rune of journey. So we'll see. Again, that's interesting. And don't mind the jingle bells in the background. That is the cat. She's a teenager, and I feel like that should be explanation enough if anybody has ever had, ooh, stars, a kitty cat who's also been a teenager. Oh, sorry if I had two there. Okay, ooh, three. All right. 2 Nordic runes and 1 Celtic. The Celtic one is for creating and start. Ooh, with the stars. The general meaning for the stars, if I'm trying to remember correctly, is like destiny. Like something, I always think of it as like written in the stars. Names. All right, I know this one is Nalthes. This one is for delay and patience. That message is coming up a lot too recently, which is interesting. Awaz. That one too. And then the rune for protection. Can be protection also like partnership or friendship? We'll look more into that. Again, we're just laying out the cards. Sometimes I ramble on about it and something will come through. Sometimes not. Ooh, excuse me. That is okay. Confirmation burp. All right, real quick. I don't think so. Okay. Nope, those are across. Matching the cards for some reason is always like, I don't know, I really enjoy it. I played one of those matching games as a kid. What was it called? Memory or something? I have a very picture-oriented brain, apparently. And I was just thinking about, we'll get to our affirmation card in a second, but the 6 of Swords that flipped out. It's interesting that that comes up when the stars, that kind of like destiny energy is coming in. Because it feels like this is a slow, especially with Nalthes, that delay, patience, like something is slowly moving into a better, especially creating and start. Again, we'll get more information on that. But it's very interesting that's coming up. I always say it's like, oh, it's so interesting, it's fascinating, but it is, even though it's like every time I read the cards, I'm like, all the synchronicities come out, and I'm like, how do you do that? Mystery of the ages. All right. Ooh, horseshoe. Horseshoe right off the bat. Okay. Oh. Oh, wow. Okay, lots of runes coming out. Sometimes like 1 or 2, but this one has 4. Jeez. Okay. This one is Laguz. Water flow. All right, and then we have 3 Celtic runes. Let's see. Put them right side up for me. Wounds, healing, intensity, passion, skill, and prosperity. Okay. With the horseshoe, which is like one of the lucky, I mean, obviously we have a 4-leaf clover here. It didn't match up, but it's interesting that the horseshoe did. I think, pretty sure that's another one for like a form of luck. Okay, nope. Checking. And sometimes I'll see a picture like halfway through a read, and suddenly it's like, oh, a picture lined up. I try to view it as I'm going to see the pictures I'm meant to see. It happens. Okay, Nope, nope. New. Okay, last row. Ooh, okay, so in this case where we have the trees, and also here, if this card was to turn and these pictures were to line up, this is the orientation it would be in. But since it already has the horseshoe here, I'm going to put this. Ooh, it's the blank rune. Word came out. Endless possibilities. We're going to put it there, again, to remind us that there is one there. Because sometimes I have a memory like a steel sieve. Is it still on screen? Yes. All right. Ooh, fish. Okay. A lot of runes. Like, I know only one came out over here, but it just seems like a lot of runes are coming out for you. Uruz. Okay, that's the rune of power. Like, that's a very strong rune to come out. Ooh. We have the Celtic runes for shield and protection, but also terror and fear. Okay. It's interesting that, like, the meaning of the fish in general is like a spiritual fortune. I'm trying to remember exactly. I have the book. I'm going to grab it. Because I can't remember all 50 cards on top of each 4 different meanings. Maybe some people can. I'm not one of those people. Shield and protection coming out when we have also the rune of protection. Ooh, okay. And then the scales. Again, this one's already occupied, so if these were to match up, it'd be in this orientation. So we're going to grab these 2. We have, ooh, Hagalas. With the scales in reverse, too, no less. Or in the 4th position, I should say. With peace and support. That's a very interesting juxtaposition. We're going to check. This is going to be an interesting read. All right, and then we have the last card. So with the last card, you read all the pictures in their upright position, their first position. So we will still get a rune. Oh, just this one. Radiance and growth. Awesome. Okay. All right, I'm going to take a moment and stare deeply into this. I will be right back. All right, we're back. So I did find 2. I found the bear. So the bear came out and aligned, and then I pulled the rune Othilla, which is about like inheritance and legacy, which would be very interesting. And then also I saw that the heart lined up. So even though this is the last card, we still have one that lines up. And typically you would read it in both positions, but because the heart lined up in the upright position, we don't have to worry about that. However, we did grab an extra rune for it. It was one of the Celtic ones, and this one came out as wisdom. So I don't, excuse me, confirmation burp. I don't see any others. Doesn't mean they're not here, but we are going to jump into the read. So I'm going to remind myself that we do have the 6 of Swords. So let's see. This table does not make picking things up very easy. To slide things off. Okay. Oh. Give me a second. YouTube. All right. Ooh, it says hold people accountable for the way they treat you. Okay. This could be something that you've been working on, especially with the 6 of Swords. You could have been working on, or are currently working on, boundaries. Like that very personal and intimate kind of self-improvement. Okay, so I feel like the week ahead we're going to be dealing with outside forces. So let's take a look. Let's grab the book. All right, so the first one is actually the very last card, number 50, bread. So its general meaning is happiness. In its second position, this book is very flowery, so I'll do my best. It says, profits and happiness in the house, success in business affairs, which is excellent to hear, because also Rytho is the rune of journey. Movement, change even. There could be a change in finances, something not immediate. I feel like it's a slow, because again, we have the Six of Swords here. This feels like a slower energy. There's been a slow improvement in that. All right. Let's get some clarification. Okay. Could I get some clarification, please? Rytho. Two of Swords. Seeing these two. Eight of Cups, Seven of Cups. Ooh, okay. No, they came out like that. This slow and steady improvement, like your happiness, I'm getting the sense that it's been an internal journey for you, especially with the Two of Swords. But you've made very conscious choices about how and where your happiness comes from. I hope that makes sense. To the point where, like, you've walked away from stuff, but you have more discernment. You're not as, I don't want to use the word like naive, but this person is blindfolded with the Two of Swords. And it could have been in the past you listened to a lot of outside talk or outside influence, perhaps, about how happiness should be or should look for you. And you've decided, like, no, I'm deciding for myself what that looks like. That's a very strong message I feel coming through. Okay. I got nothing else. It's pretty straightforward, especially with hold people accountable for the way they treat you and the Six of Swords. Like, I feel that's very clear, very self-explanatory. All right, so 16, the stars. If I remember correctly, this one's like, yes, the very flowery destiny influencing your life, which is, yeah, pretty much. So in the first position, the phrase here is, your guiding star will bring you to your goal. Interesting. Creating and start is here, along with Nalthis and Awaz. I want to get some cards, but I got a sense of, like, I wonder if some of you maybe lost your way is a phrase that's coming. Like, maybe you lost they're talking about, like, guiding stars, like you lost your guiding star for a bit, but it's back now. That would explain, we have Nalthis again with delays. It's been like you were going on a path and maybe the path wandered a bit, but now you're back on. It's almost like a new start as well. All right. Can we get some clarification, please? Justice. Okay. I feel this very much connects back what we were talking here. There were two sides of the coin. This kind of almost like light and dark. Like there was something in your, almost like shadow work. Again, like this idea of this slow and steady improvement, where you may have lost your way, you may have strayed from your path, or the path you had set for yourself, your goals, what your dreams were, because you had to take care of something, but it was something very personal as well. Ace of Cups. Yeah, this was something deeply personal to you. But you've done a lot of healing. You've done a lot of healing. Maybe this week is about seeing how far you've come. Like seeing just how far you've come on this little boat, you know? This little boat, this person who's being pulled by crows as well. Like that's not a fast journey. That's much slower. Yeah. Okay. Messages are kind of coming in kind of short and concise. And it's not a bad thing. It's just interesting. This could be a week where things are popping up that maybe show you just how far you've come. Being like, hey, you've tackled this. And it could even be new situations that are popping up to kind of, I don't want to say test the waters, but things coming up to kind of show you how much you've changed because you are facing them, or you are, working with these situations as they come up, maybe even people. You're working with them in a very different way than maybe you have in the past, and showing that kind of growth as well. So it may not be like a big week of external things necessarily happening, actually, because we were talking about in the beginning of like, oh, maybe this is like an external influence. It could be a little bit of both, but it also could be very internal as well. All right, let's keep going. So 28 is the horseshoe. Horseshoe. Nope, too far. There we go. So the horseshoe its general meaning is success. And in its upright, it's good fortune, which is awesome. And it's interesting because we have the 3 Celtic runes. Ma'am, are you coming in to cause a ruckus? Hi. For wound healing, intensity, passion, and skill and prosperity. The cat is like right here. Hi. Yes. We also have Laguz with flow, and it feels like things are going to be flowing now. And success as it comes in is going to be part of that wound healing process. Ma'am? No, that has to stay there. You cannot eat the runes. You can't do it. I know you tried last time. Please don't. Ma'am? Can we... No. You're a mess. God. No, leave that alone. No, ma'am. Don't. No. Girl. No. Anyways. I'm gonna have to do that at least twice more. Again. Teenagers. Teenager kitty. Alright, cards. Just, there we go. Yeah, so success it's interesting to come up with the horseshoe when we were talking about, like, healing and how far you've come with the rune for wounds and healing as well. Intensity, passion. Like, again, finding... I want to say almost reigniting a passion. Okay. So we were talking earlier about how this week you might have situations or things pop up that kind of show how much you've grown or how things have changed. Yeah, I'm getting that confirmation. We have had a lot of interruptions. And that could be it. That could be part of, like, how you're able to handle stress, how you're able to handle, like, people, something like that. We have the moon. Wow, we have the moon and the star. And the Queen of Pentacles. Okay. Yeah, success, I feel, is definitely going to start to flow. Especially we have the moon and Laguz here. things that maybe you didn't see. Not that you didn't see it coming. I have a feeling you knew things were coming, especially with the star here. This is like you've been holding out for this. Not holding out. Why are you holding out? That's an odd turn of phrase to use, but something that it's not, this isn't something new. This is something that you've put a lot of faith into, a lot of focus, and even, I want to say like spiritual practice, and that could just be prayers, it could be meditations, manifestation, like however that process looks like for you. But you've had a lot of faith in this, and it is going to start to move forward. The Queen of Pentacles here. This is a receiving energy. The Queens and Kings are just energies. Queens are a very receptive energy. Things coming towards you. Kings are kind of the opposite. They're like an outward action oriented energy. But this is different. I have a feeling you've been doing a lot of action, and now things are going to start to move. Again, the rune of flow. Okay. Let's, anything else for that? 2. All right. Wow. Okay. And it's going to be coming in quickly with the Knight of Swords. This is something that perhaps in the past you told yourself that it was impossible, or you've been fighting this self-doubt. You've been fighting these internal negative self-talk, this and like negative, internal monologues. I call them my brain goblins, but they're the dialogues, and a lot of times either self-imposed or imposed from an external source. Come from, again, we were talking about external, internal kind of stuff. Yeah. This could be something that you've wanted to happen, and that could be part of it, as things start to move and change. It's interesting that the Devil card here, this person, this representation is kind of holding their hand out. You're the person, as things change, you're the person who has to accept it. The Queen of Pentacles is open to receive things, but you're the one who has to receive them. If you stay put, if you stay in the same energy you've always been in, and you don't receive them, because like, I just think of like an email that comes in and it's like, hey, there's this amazing opportunity. Click the link. And obviously don't do that if it's a phishing scam. Like, please use your best judgment. But this is like a legitimate thing, or a letter, or you get news of some kind where they're just like, hey, just take these steps. And the thing you've been wanting, a scholarship, a job interview, I'm just examples. You're still the one who has to say yes. You're still the one that has to respond. Don't let that self-doubt creep in, or imposter syndrome, or whatever this is. Don't let those self-doubt, that negative self-talk, because you've been working super hard on, I feel like, your shadow internally. You've been doing a lot of internal work, emotionally and mentally. Yeah, emotional, mentally as well. So you got this. Okay, so the Forest, number 20. Let's go back. Okay, so the Forest general meaning is the people around you, which is interesting. We were talking about this week dealing with people around you. In its 3rd position, yeah, it's facing that way. It's contact with suspicious people. Really interesting. We also have Word, which is the blank rune. Hidden things. Okay. Can we get some clarification on that? Ooh. So 7 of Wands. We were talking about having boundaries. This person is literally in a bubble. You're going to need to be on the defensive. But it's interesting, this person is very peaceful. Like they're almost in a meditation pose. And I feel like this is part of what you've been working on. To not, people coming in, I just get the example, the analogy, if you will, of like some people's success. Suddenly you're successful, or you come into, let's say, you win the lottery. Just throwing it out there. You win the lottery, and then you make it known, and suddenly people come out of the woodwork of like, hey, you owe me, or being like super nice when before they wouldn't give you the time of day. Like I feel like you have the wisdom and the wherewithal to be like, no, I've been working on this. I can see through what you're doing. Or even, we were talking about contracts earlier. So even if someone is proposing a contract, protect yourself. Don't be afraid to be like, yes, and. Might be a week of yes, and. Yes, I love this opportunity. And I'm going to need to revise the contract, or I'm going to need to set very firm boundaries about like working conditions or hours, or however that, because everybody's going to be different. However that looks for you. Being very firm, very, very firm and very clear on on your boundaries when it comes to the people around you. Especially if it's people that you don't know very well. Hold people accountable for the way they treat you. Again, going back to this. If you have to come in contact with someone in the past who did not respect your boundaries, you may have to take steps to enforce it. Because sometimes, if people walked all over you in the past, and then you set boundaries, and suddenly they're like, oh my God, you've changed so much. And it's like, no, I'm actually just standing up for myself. Speak from experience. It's always interesting when the people who used to get away with anything and everything are suddenly held accountable, and they throw temper tantrum. I don't know. Personal observation from my personal experience, but just throwing that example out there. Ooh, yeah. This could definitely be a situation where boundaries are going to be key. Otherwise, old wounds will open up. The Three of Swords. Something you're going to have to be very firm with, very clear with. Yeah. And this is something you may not see coming. I hate to say this, but it might, especially with word here, the blank rune, it could be something unexpected, kind of comes out of nowhere, and you're like, whoa, you're going to have to be very careful and deliberate with how you handle that situation. And those people. Because again, we're dealing with the trees. This is like a external source. Yeah, this is someone who acted kind of shady in the past. Or even with the Ace of Pentacles here, if this is, thank you, hi. We were talking about contracts where it's an opportunity for resources. Doesn't necessarily have to be money, but it could be resources. But something in the physical realm. Let's say it is money. It is a contract of something that you would get a big salary boost. And perhaps these people are kind of known to not necessarily take the most honest path with the Seven of Swords. Again, being very clear about what you need and what your boundaries are. And protect yourself first and foremost to avoid that heartbreak, even in the future. And it could have been like maybe you've been burned in the past. Maybe you accepted a contract in the past and you were taken advantage of, and it's like, no, this time I'm looking out for me, and I'm not going to let people walk all over me. Which, heck yeah. Like, absolutely. Do not settle for less. I don't know. Anyways, all right, so 15. The bear. We have our bear. Oh, interesting. Okay. So the bear's general meaning is work effort with good result. And we were talking about like contracts, we've been talking about people around you, things shifting, especially with like your physical resources, things flowing, success, like a lot of things might be shifting. Because in the fourth position here, the bear means, or the phrase for it is, don't have faith in every piece of advice. And with Othello, the rune, talking about like property and possessions, legacy. And we were just talking about like the contract having like a yes and. Are you confirming? Thank you. Having like a yes and mentality where it's like, yes, thank you for the opportunity, and also like having that kind of mindset. This could be very important because let's again take the contract example. Someone comes to you with a contract and you say yes, and these are the things I would need from this contract, this has to change, and they're like, oh well, that's kind of a big thing and I don't know. Or no one else coming in, let's say it's a company, is like, oh well, no one else in the starting out in the company has ever made that kind of demand, when it's like, that's great, I'm not everybody. Like that kind of energy where it's like cute but no, like don't. Unsolicited advice as well, sometimes when you get success or you see progress, like some people start giving you very unsolicited advice. You're like, I didn't even ask for this, why are you telling me this? And especially, you know, being discerning, and I feel like you have been working on this as well, is protecting yourself and being able to discern good advice from advice that is perhaps a projection of someone else's insecurities. You know, sometimes people are like, oh, you shouldn't do that, it's too risky. And it's like, no, I'm good at taking a risk. And I'm sorry it didn't work out for you, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to follow that. All right. Ooh, the magician. Yeah, that's you. You have the power to shift things around. You definitely do. You have the ability to have that balance, have that discernment, and to move forward in these changes. You have that strength and power. Just because someone else doesn't, or didn't, you know, sometimes people are very well meaning in, you know, they're trying to like, oh, I had this experience and it was terrible. And it's like, that's great. Thank you for telling me that. However, I'm well aware, let's say we're going back to like, it's a company or person that's been known to kind of be underhanded. And you're like, I am aware of how they operate. Thank you. I'm not walking into this blind. You know, I'm not walking into it completely naive. Like I know, you know what you're doing. Or at least you have a good head on your shoulders to make those balanced and reasonable and rational decisions when it comes to this. Especially we're talking about your long term in your physical resources, whether that is housing, property, money, your health, whatever it is. Like you know what you want, and you have the power to bring it to fruition and kind of make those discernments of like, yeah. And I just get the sense with the Page of Swords here, it's a very fine tightrope. This person is literally balancing on a sword across a gap. It's a very delicate balance. Like, no one is going to deny that. But it's not something you can't handle. Okay. Roll up the sleeves. All right, so we got number 33 with the fish. 33 with the fish. Nope, I'm back. Okay, so the general meaning for the fish is material or spiritual fortune. In its upright, it's fortune, especially on the sea. We're going to get some cards for this, but with Uruz, which is the rune of power, this one. And then we have the Celtic runes for shield, protection, terror, and fear. We were talking earlier about the devil here and those like limiting self-belief, the sometimes internalized dialogues from other people about, you know, what we can and can't do, and just all of that negative self-talk. I feel like that's linked somehow. And again, Uruz, the rune of power, and we have the magician as well. There's very much a sense of, I feel like this message is repeating a bit throughout here, of you have the power and the ability to make these changes, to go with these changes, to flow, again, the rune of flow, to flow with success. Don't let negative self-talk stop you. Don't let the little shoulder devils, the brain goblins, whatever you want to call them, don't let that hold you back, because you are a very powerful person. And interesting, we have the fish here with water and lagoons as well, the flow. Ooh, yeah, doing that, going with the flow is going to, the Four of Wands, that is going to definitely cause a lot of celebration. Ooh, with the Five of Wands. And Judgment. You've overcome a lot of competition, both externally and I almost feel internally as well. Like sometimes we are our biggest critics. You've overcome a lot of that noise, whether it was internal or external or both. And you are listening to your calling. We were talking about destiny over here with the stars and like refinding your passion, refinding your path after having kind of strayed maybe a little bit. Not losing it. Maybe you did lose it for a little bit, but you're kind of refinding it. It's almost like having something you really loved, but then doing it to the point of burnout. You're recovering, you're overcoming that burnout, and you're coming back to it, but in a much smarter and more grounded and balanced way. And that's very, very powerful. All right, so we do have the scales down here. 42. Nope, not this way. Da, 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 da. Here we go. Okay. So the scales obviously stand for justice and balance. And it's interesting, we have the scales here and we also have justice. So we'll keep that in mind. In the fourth position, fourth position, it says evil actions will have consequence. It's interesting Hagalaz is here because Hagalaz, the rune of disruption, it has tower vibes, we'll just say that. But sometimes, again, the tower can be like a scary card. Hagalaz can be a scary rune. But it's about kind of like karmic lessons. It's also kind of forces outside of our control. And it's like how we rise to the occasion to, I don't say tackle the problems, but to like face what's going on. So let's get some cards. What is this, the action or the consequence, if we can know more about that? The King of Wands. If this is something legal, we were talking about contracts earlier, which is really interesting. If this is something in the legal realm, you are going to need to take action. That is going to be very important. King of Wands. I'm running out of space over here. I think you might also get support. because we have peace and support here and the Four of Cups. And it may be from a source that you didn't, not that you didn't see it, but you didn't necessarily like, or even if you knew it was there, it was kind of like, whoa, I had no idea. Page of Wands, a lot of fire. I don't necessarily feel that this is something you've done. I get the sense that it is something overall. Hi. Can you not stand on my book, please? Hi, yes. Please don't eat the microphone. Hi. Thank you. Thank you for kisses. She comes up and likes to give kisses. Okay, we do scratches. You know they can't see you when you're standing on my book. Oh, hi. Yes. Purr, 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 purr. Thank you. You're pretty. Shouldn't put her tail on my ear. Come on. Ma'am. Thank you. Confirmation, I guess. I don't know. She's an odd one. Anyways. All right. So this could be someone coming in to help you out. The Four of Cups. And again, this idea of taking action, don't lock up or be like apathetic about it or feel like, oh, it'll just go away. Like, if something is coming up, especially if it is something with a contract or a person, like we were talking kind of like people in the past kind of having shady dealings in that respect, like definitely don't just, oh, it'll fix itself, or like don't just leave it. Don't be apathetic with what's going on. I almost want to say like tackle it head on. You have the Page of Wands and the King of Wands. Like this is something that I feel like they're saying like take action, and from that action you're going to be able to negotiate and move forward in an even stronger position than before. And I feel like this also goes back to Hagalaz, where we were talking about the tower, and the tower is like breaking things down to its base and sometimes rebuilding the base of something. And if you can rebuild the base going forward and a much stronger foundation of something, then going forward it can take, let's say, a heavier load. Or if you're talking just architectural, from an architectural point of view, if your base, your foundations are strong, then the building's longevity will hold. If you go by older buildings, like maybe it wasn't up to code, especially if you live in a place that gets like a lot of earthquakes, making sure that the building can withstand the shifts and the sways and earthquakes, and you're up again, the allegory of like life's ups and downs. We've all been through those metaphorical, sometimes literal, earthquakes. And being able to have your foundation withstand that in the long run is much better than just taking that building as is with its not up to code structure and maybe cracking foundation and be like, no, it'll be fine. And then an earthquake hits and it's not. Again, we're just using allegories and metaphors here, and I hope this is making sense to someone, because I'm never sure. All right, so we do have the heart here, which is attached to the last card. So that is very interesting. So this one I'm going to read with both runes of wisdom, radiance, and growth. But the heart is I feel a lovely message. Because the heart, surprise, its general meaning is love. So in its upright position, the phrase here is, your happiness is in the answer of the person you love. Which is very interesting. Because typically in the first position, most of these, not all, most of these pictures are a more positive energy. I'm going to say lighter energy comparatively to a more challenging energy. In the first position, the heart here is not necessarily a positive one. because it kind of talks about in the book here as well that like putting your happiness in the answer of someone else is, it's not a bad thing, but it's also not a good thing. If I'm hoping this is making sense. The idea that basically like, well, my happiness hinges on the person I love. And if love is not something you resonate with, it's like someone you have a very deep personal attachment to. You can have an intimate relationship with, not necessarily a physical intimacy with, but you have like an emotional intimacy with this person. It's like hinging your happiness on whether or not they're happy is not always great, because you need to also, it's like that you can't pour from an empty cup. You have to fill your cup. And that could be part of, we were talking about the boundaries. Also going back here, it says hold people accountable for the way they treat you, and understanding that how someone is treating you is not a direct reflection on you. Sometimes it is, most times actually, it's more of a reflection on them and what they're going with. And it's interesting, we got wisdom, radiance, and growth. So in the past, it could have been you had relationships that it was you were very much giving more than you received, if you received at all. So there could have been a very one-sided relationship. Going forward, I feel like you have the wisdom and you have grown. Again, we were talking about you've done a lot of growth. You've been on this like internal journey. You've done a lot of growing. Okay, these two stuck to the table. We'll take them. Ooh, speaking of the tower. All right, and the Knight of Pentacles. Yeah, you've gone through a tower moment. And it's not to say we go through multiple in our lives. So the disruption coming in, I feel like, again, I'm not feeling like it's peace and support here. It's not anything that you can't handle, because you've gone through your tower moment in the past. And you've been moving at a slow and steady pace forward. And so with the heart and this growth and this wisdom here as well, going forward, I think this came up somewhere else too, but you have the ability to make that discernment. I think it was with the forest over here, of like, what is good for you, and not settling for less, or not just settling to keep the peace. You've done the work to recognize when a relationship is not going to go anywhere, or have the wisdom to kind of like, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this, but like you have the wisdom to kind of like suss out the people who are not genuine. Yeah. That's okay, with the Emperor. Yeah, you've definitely come with the like you're in a much more stable position to go forward, especially when we're talking about love, however that love looks to you. Yeah, with the Emperor here, especially the Emperor in the Tower, you've gone through that tower moment, whether it was a past relationship, whether it was a past work situation where, again, you put forward everything you had and either didn't receive anything back, or had that tower moment where, if, we're taking a bad case scenario from like a work situation where they like, you built the company from the ground up and then they're just like, okay, thanks, bye. For whatever, that kind of, going forward, let's say, again, using that example, you're going to a new company to kind of like their startup and you're helping them out. And it's like, no, I know how to look for the signs. I'm in a better position mentally, emotionally, to understand where this is going and to know the signs, and to also speak from the beginning. We were talking here about like being very clear about what you need and what you want, especially when it comes to like contracts or a relationship as well. Being very clear about this is what I need going forward. And setting those boundaries and keeping them and enforcing them as well. Again, we had this kind of bubble shield over here, and I'm just seeing the planet, it's Mars, behind this person as well. You know how to maneuver. You have a better sense of how to maneuver yourself with the chess piece. I just saw that. And it's also, they're on a checkerboard. Okay. All right. We got very full. Okay. Let's move the last card here. So we already did the heart. We are going... The table is always an absolute mess when I finish these reads. It's okay. Move these around. All right, so if we can get, please, 3 cards. One for our rooster, one for the lilies, and one for our kitty cat. Okay. So the rooster, let's start there. And then we're using, again, this rune for radiance and growth. I'm going to sneeze. Are you going to sneeze? Are you? You were like 2 seconds away from sneezing. What happened? I hate that. Ugh. I hate that feeling. All right. Ugh. Okay. Temperance. All right. So the rooster, the symbol is for news that wakes you. And it's upright. It's soon you will hear good news. So this could be a communication with the rooster. I feel like it is like maybe a verbal communication coming in. Something that helps with your, and in radiance as well, like not only growth, but just like news that wakes you in a really positive way, because we do have temperance. And I'm seeing this card has like the sun and the moon here. And there is a set of wings behind them. So again, the rooster, I'm seeing like the wings. Something that maybe even settles you. And brings you kind of back. We were talking about like healing with the horseshoe here, with like success, like things coming in that kind of help that process of healing. There could be news coming in that like not only wakes you like, holy cow. Again, we were talking about like things moving and shifting and flowing and moving forward. But in a way, it kind of balances you again. And I feel like that's going to be key, is like making sure you stay balanced and you stay grounded as well. That could also be key as these things come in, as this news comes in, as these things shift and turn. All right, so number 30 with the lily. Nope, too far. There we go. So the general meaning of lily is faithfulness. And its upright is a happy life full of meaning, which is beautiful because we also have the Queen of Cups and the radiance and growth. I feel like that's pretty straightforward. Again, with the star over here, like the faith and the hope that you've put in what you've been building is coming in. Again, the Queen of Pentacles, the Queen of Cups, a very receptive, open energy. I get the message of like your faith is paying off, however that faith looks like to you. I mean, I feel like if you're watching a tarot read, you might be a spiritual person. So however that spirituality resonates for you, that's gonna start coming back in. For some reason, we had the 4 of Cups down here with the bowl, and we were talking about like someone coming in that maybe you didn't expect. The Queen of Cups, the bowl is here as well. Obviously, we're dealing with the same suit, cups and cups, but for some reason it is standing out to me. So I just get the sense of like, keep yourself open. This person has a very kind of open posture as well. Keep yourself open to support. Use your intuition. When someone comes in, again, we were talking about you have the wisdom to like discern when people are being false and like, this situation is kind of shady. The same goes for the other type. You have the wisdom and the intuition to be like, hey, this situation is genuine. This person means well. So trust that. Trust that intuition. All right, so 41 is the Kittikate. Speaking of mine, she's finally settled down on her chair. For now. All right, so the cat is a symbol for hidden danger. It's very interesting. Because we were talking about like the moon here, like things. Also word. The blank rune. Okay, so when it's upright, someone will charm you with kindness, which you'll yield to. And in this case, again, the phrases are very flowery. So it's like someone's being super nice, but they're not being genuine in their intentions. Or they don't necessarily have your intentions in mind. Not that they're being like evil or mean. It could be like they're being friendly to get ahead because of your success. And it's interesting that that one comes up because we've been talking about, again, like you have the ability to discern people with false intentions or very selfish intentions, we'll say. Very challenging energies versus the people who are here to help. The Seven of Pentacles. I don't know, I just keep getting the phrase like you've come a long way. So even if these people are coming in to try to like charm you, you know, with, I don't know, whatever, but they're trying to be very charming, you know, for their own gain. And what they see is this like little plant and they're like, oh, they must be so naive. What they don't see is you have a very strong foundation. We were talking about rebuilding foundations with the tower down here. It's like you've been through it. You've been tending this little plant for a long time, and you have a very strong foundation to discern those kinds of people. And it's interesting it's coming up because, yeah, hold people accountable for the way they treat you or the way they have treated you. Again, past tense as well. And how they treat people around them. You have that ability to make those discernments of like, sure about that? Yeah. You have grown a lot. All right, so let's get, okay. These were just in the bottom. So we have the 5 of Swords and the 10, the Wheel, which is the Wheel of Fortune. Things are shifting. Things are shifting in a very poignant way as well. And while you're coming out the winner, you're coming out on top, don't let the noise of the outside world take that joy away from you, and don't let like that imposter syndrome or those negative self-talk, don't let that overrun. You know, don't let it overrun you. That's going to be, I feel, very important. Yeah, you are ready to set out on something. You are ready to set out on something. Leave the 3 of Wands. You are ready, set, go. 100%. Which is interesting because we started with the 6 of Swords and we ended with the 3 of Wands. So we're going from like a very slow recovery, a very slow movement forward mentally. Yeah, from like in your mind, kind of like that kind of healing process. Slowly moving forward into like the 3 of Wands, which I feel is like you're ready for adventure. You're ready for that excitement. You're ready. You're just ready. You're ready to move forward. You kind of like have made plans and you're like, all right, let's do it. So that's what I'm kind of getting. So that is your week ahead. And not to say it is not without challenges, because I feel like it is, but it's nothing you can't handle. And I feel like that is going to be key to remember. It is nothing you cannot handle. All right, so that, I feel, is your read So some quick housekeeping. If this vibed with you, please like, subscribe, share the channel as my wrists crack. It's very helpful. We're trying to build like a fun little community here because I like reading for just anybody. I just like reading, and I figure can offer free services to everyone. But if you would like to support the channel, we do have a Buy Me a Coffee for behind the scenes content. We post there like 3 times a week, and that's over at Buy Me a Coffee, and I think it's like $5 a month, where you can also support me there. Both are extremely welcome, and I am always very, very grateful for anybody who leaves comments or, again, all that stuff. Anyways, all right. So this week, there's going to be some interesting things coming in. Challenging things, yes, but also very good things. Again, temperance here, I'm just drawn to of like, there's going to be a balance. And it is nothing you can't handle. Remember that. So that being said, make sure you take care of yourself, stay safe, and until next time, I love you, okay? All right, bye-bye.